All right, take over to the NFL. Jets running back Le'Veon Bell made waves this week after being released by the New York Jets. Bell signed a 4-year, $52 million deal with the Jets before 2019, but did struggle to live up to it. He averaged just 3.3 yards per carry, almost dead last in the NFL among qualifying backs. Ball became critical of the Jets organization this week on social media, which led to a quick release. Kansas City Chiefs picked him up on a 1-year deal on Thursday, where he'll slot in with rookie Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So, Jay, how does Bell fit into the KC backfield, and will this be the change of scenery he's looking for?
Well, first things first, we gotta address this right away. It wasn't that long ago that I was a believer that Le'Veon Bell was the best running back in football, and then you had your little season-long holdout or season-long holdout. Maybe he did come back for final.
No, it was like the whole season. Yeah,
he had did it end up being the whole season? That's right. Okay, all right. Yep. Since that time, you had the 2018 season where he didn't play. And then, you get that big contract with Jets. 3 years, it's deteriorated pretty quickly. So I'm going to say right up front, Le'Veon, you're 28 years of age, and we know in this league, running backs, you even sniffing 30 at all, they trying to run you out of there. So he might want to get it together real quick, keep the bowling stops at a minimum, and play, because this is an opportunity that he cannot mess up, because you don't get to go from this is unheard of, and really it's unconscionable to go from perhaps the most depressing city in all of football, because I'm not letting the Giants off the hook out of that equation, to go from that to the defending champs, who we saw them in the offseason. They was re-signing and signing everybody. And now, they hold 1 L so far, and we got to do something else. We can't let this get out of hand. So he's got to make good on this, or it might be about over for him, at least in terms of us, talking about him with any degree of respect that we've had for him in years past. Now, on the flip side of that, I'm not going to rule him out and say that he can't make it happen. I think he's still capable, and it's hard to judge a guy who the past season plus. I mean, when you play for the Jets and you play for Adam Gase, it's hard to evaluate a guy. I mean, we don't know how good Sam Darnold is or how good or bad he is, because they seemingly they can't put it together around him. Offensive line, you think, we got a left tackle. Well, the rest of the guys, they still can't block. We drafted a dude with Denzel Mims. You got a few receivers, but overall, it's nothing impressive about them. So it's hard to evaluate Le'Veon Bell the past year plus, but it hasn't been anything good. I mean, you read it in terms of yards per carry. 51st out of 53 backs that qualified had enough carries, 863 yards rushing in 17 games. Never had more than 87 yards a game. Never had a 100-yard game in that span. Only 3 games. He only had 3 games where he ran the ball more than 20 times. So I think there's some argument to where maybe Adam Gase doesn't know how to utilize. He didn't know how to utilize Le'Veon Bell, or just refused to utilize him properly. But it was an abject failure. And I go back to Le'Veon's time with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sometimes the place you're at, sometimes the grass ain't greener, and it certainly wasn't greener with gangrene. Even though he got a lot of green from that. Well,
the money was green, yeah.
It was green, yeah, and he didn't end up cashing in on enough of it when it was all said and done. I'd love to know the terms of that 1-year deal that the Chiefs gave him. It wasn't 1 year, $13 million to keep in line with that average that he was getting with the Jets. But the Kansas City Chiefs, when you look at them, this could be a big deal for them. You recall last season in the Super Bowl, they had a guy named Damian Williams who iced that game for him with a big touchdown run. We know he opted out due to the pandemic. So they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's been leading the rushing attack. But I think it's something quick to overlook. Since that really impressive debut that he had against the Texans, rushed for $138. He's been radio silence. 38 yards, 64 yards, 64 yards, and 40 yards. And the yards per carry hasn't been higher than 4 in the last 4 games. So it seems like they need a little shot in the arm in the ground attack. I think Le'Veon Bell can be that guy for him. And I think you definitely like, especially with Edwards-Helaire, who he's a little bit undersized. And I would say, especially as a rookie, you don't want to put the whole ground attack on his shoulders. And normally what we see in today's NFL is it's most teams, I'd say, upwards 75% of teams, they go with a multiple back approach. I think that's what Kansas City needs here. I think Le'Veon, I'd say Patrick Mahomes is the one quarterback I can say can get it done without a running game. But now if you got a guy like Le'Veon Bell, if Le'Veon Bell is going to come in there and he's going to, never have to face an 8-man box, I got to believe he's going to be able to get it done and be a great asset to him. Maybe his ability to run the football will be able to also in turn help their defense get a little bit more time possession going. But it's going to be about Le'Veon's focus and his motivation. I got to believe it's going to be incredibly high. You can't find a better situation to be in. And we'll see how Andy Reid uses him and how quickly he gets in the flow of things.
I don't know, man. I feel like clearly Kansas City needed a little more punch in the backfield. That's clear. But I feel like it's risky. It's very risky for for Kansas City to bring in a guy that had the attitude of Le'Veon Bell over the last year. You got a team that's been, for it to have so many stars on this team, you don't really have no diva behavior on this team. Patrick Mahomes don't act like a diva. The wide receivers don't act like a diva. Travis Kelce and so on and so forth. You got a guy right here that has shown he got some diva qualities to him. So you bring him in. What happens if he don't get the burn like he want to, and he sees a rookie getting more touches than he do? What do you do at that point? So I gotta play devil advocate. Why did he get those touches in New York? Maybe because he was just talking so much trash or had such a bad attitude. Gase was like, I'm just gonna cut him out of the game plan because this dude just not worth it. But because we pay him so much, we'll put him on the field. But I gotta feed the guys that want to play. The wide receivers, Sam Darnold, they're not good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like it's his fault that they're not good. They're not good at all. But at the end of the day, when do we just look at Le'Veon and say his head is not into football anymore? It just doesn't seem he's into being a NFL running back. And I agree to your point, Jake. This is it for him. We know how quick this league will give up on you. I don't care how talented you are. If you're not cutting the mustard, if you're not butting up, if you're just going to be out here acting a fool, the league will pass you by. And if he don't make it happen here in Kansas City, I think this might be, if not the last stop, the second to last stop that we see Le'Veon Bell playing in the NFL. So he better shape up or ship out because, like I said, it's one thing to leave, turmoil and the Morris show up there in Pittsburgh when you got Antonio Brown doing what he doing, you doing what you doing, Big Ben out here doing what he doing. It's one thing to leave that clown show, come to New York with no expectations, and people are like, well, it's New York, it's the Jets. Maybe that's the problem. Now you're going to Kansas City, you don't have any of those excuses. Excellent team, excellent offense, everybody gets along, expectation is through the roof. You got to make it happen, bro. So with that said, let's see. I'm pessimistic. I'm not optimistic that this will work because I'm not a fan of Le'Veon Bell's attitude. Ever since he got labeled one of the best running backs in the NFL, he started acting a doggone fool about it. And he hasn't been right since. He hasn't been right since the year before he took off. When he got labeled one of the best runners, I want to get paid because I catch the ball out of the backfield. He hasn't been right since then. We'll see. You have no excuses. You got a good quarterback. We'll see. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, it's really it's amazing the drop off that Bell has experienced from the Steelers to the Jets. You're talking about a guy that was two-time first team All Pro, three-time Pro Bowler. He had 3 seasons where he either eclipsed or came very close to eclipsing 2,000 yards in scrimmage, about 1,200 to 1,300 on the ground, then about 600-700 through the air. He was really one of the few true dual threat running backs, both in the backfield running and then also receiving. And we also know what the Steelers are able to do with him on the roster. So it's pretty incredible after that 2018 holdout. We remember how the Steelers had a deal for him, but it wasn't quite what he wanted. And then he held out and got what kind of amounted to the same deal with the Jets. It was a little less overall money, but it was a little bit more guaranteed money. So and then since then, it hasn't seemed right. And what's frustrating about it is if you think about sometimes a guy gets traded and he doesn't really like where he got traded and he doesn't play well, his head's not in the right place, and he's not maybe putting in the work he should. But Le'Veon chose to sign with the Jets. He chose money over everything else. I mean, he chose that over winning, over playing in the best place. So it's hard to be too sympathetic to him because this was his choice to begin with. You chose the freaking Jets, and they weren't good when you signed with them in 2019. They're certainly not good now. So it's like what I understand being on a losing team. I watch losing football all the time. I understand that a bad team can make a good player be worse than they are. But why would you choose that and then go, oh, well, what am I supposed to do with this team? I don't know. You signed with them. You might want to figure that out. But as far as the contract goes, he was released, so he wasn't traded. He had about $6 or $7 million dead guaranteed contract left on his contract. So the Jets are going to be paying him that money, but it is deferred if another team signs him, based off what they signed him for. He will likely be playing for the Chiefs for a very, very low price, probably about $1 million. It'll probably be a better minimum or close to it. But he'll be making some money with the Jets. But they couldn't trade him with that contract he had. No one was going to trade for it. So the Jets are going to eat $15 million in dead cap and then some more next year as well to get out of that contract. So I guess they're rebuilding. They don't care, but it is what it is. But, yeah, it's really disappointing. But the biggest thing I think Le'Veon's going to do, and y'all kind of talked about it some, is the red zone threat. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been pretty solid as far as an overall back has been concerned, but he's not been good in the red zone. He is one of the top running backs in the league in terms of total touches in the red zone, but he's one of the few that don't have a single touchdown. Joe Mixon's another one that comes up, but similar guys that can get you down the field, but then when it comes to the red zone, they're just not enough of a threat to be able to find the end zone. Probably a combination of his small size, not really being able to be a target in the end zone as far as a receiver, but also not really having the size to get into the end zone on the ground. So I think Le'Veon Bell does do that, but what is a little bit concerning is they are still similar backs in a lot of ways. They're neither. I think Bell's a bigger back, obviously, but he's not like a bell cow, hand it off 30 times a game type guy. But I think that the Chiefs' offense is so explosive and so dynamic. They don't really need some like Jerome Bettis type, bulldozer or some Derrick Henry type bulldozer. I think that they are going to complement each other well. And I think if there was ever a team that he would be able to go to and have like a change of scenery and, change it around, it would be the Chiefs. So I think it's a smart signing for the Chiefs. They don't really lose anything if he doesn't work out. But if Bell, like you said, if Bell screws this up, then that might be a wrap. I mean, honestly, we may see a guy that went from a 2,000 yards per year guy to nothing if he can't make this work. But I'm a little bit optimistic, but we won't see him for another week. He won't be eligible to play until next weekend since he's got to go through the COVID protocols. So we'll see how it plays out.